All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of The Gen Shift. I am Julie. I am the founder of The Vocal Pod, a creative communication platform aimed at singers, songwriters, musicians alike. You know, if you can play an instrument, then that makes you a musician, right? And yes, we literally bring them on board to talk about original sounds, original music, and where does that come from? How has it been inspired and things like that. This episode, we are going into the Gen X Unfiltered zone, but there's a little twist to this one. We have a millennial in the studio today. But before we get to the guest, I just want to literally talk about live music has always been the heartbeat of culture. But in a world dominated by DJ sets and digital sounds, where do bands fit in? I wonder. Are live bands a dying art form, or are they making a resurgence in a new way? Today I am joined by the amazing powerhouse vocalist Lauren, who is the lead singer for the infamous Crazy. Yes, I have to put emphasis on that because I know many of the members of this band. The Doll's House, okay? And they're a Dubai-based band. They're absolutely killing it. They're killing it in Dubai. They're making waves. They've absolutely taken the roof off the house. And she's basically here to talk about what it means to be in a band in a DJ-dominated world, which kind of we'll see what she says about that. And where is the future of live performance heading these days? Lauren, I want to welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Julie. I've been wanting to get on this show for a while, so the day is finally here. Thank you so much. Yeah, and interesting to start with Doll's House, because obviously Doll's House Girl Band is founded by the amazing force of nature, our good friend DJ EMA.
That's correct.
Emma.
Yes.
And well, that in itself, so it's a band that's formed by a DJ.
Yeah.
And female girl power. There's myself on vocals, lead vocals. Then we've got Mary Ann, who plays electric violin. Amazing. Kerry Sterling on saxophone, who is another absolute powerhouse, wild child. We have the gorgeous Basma on drums and Ophelia on trumpet. And there's really room for any female musician in this band, to be honest. But that's like the core lineup.
Wow. Well, my question to you first, right?
Yeah.
So what was it that brought you guys together? Because obviously you're all from different parts of the world, I believe.
Yeah.
And I know EMA. I know her personally. Oh, yes, I do. And obviously you are from the UK as well.
Yeah.
From the same city.
Yes.
Bring it.
Manchester.
Manchester is in the house. So how did you all connect? What was it that brought you together and the idea of this Doll's House?
Yeah, so I'd heard of Emma, but we'd never actually met. It was one of those things. We have each other on social media, so many mutual friends. Rewind, but after COVID, we all found ourselves in Dubai.
Yeah.
So I knew Emma's original band, Girls That Mix, from the UK. Still know them now, and they're smashing it, doing weddings all around the world. So Emma formed that band. Then when she arrived in Dubai, she was like, let's just do this again, but in Dubai.
Right.
Let's call it Doll's House. So
Amazing.
she originally reached out to Kerry, the saxophone player, who
Right.
I've known and gigged with Kerry for years. We actually met in Bangkok in Thailand, so we've been around. And she's amazing. And then Kerry was like, well, Lauren's also here, let's all form together. So this has been in the pipeline. It's been about 5 years now that we've all been joining it together, and we've done some amazing gigs. We most recently got Mary Ann involved on electric violin, which just brings an absolute different vibe, and she kind of makes us like a bit classier as well with the violin instrument.
Add a touch of class.
Exactly.
Well, I will admit I have seen a lot on your socials, and I've just been completely blown away. The energy that you guys give is absolutely off the scale, and also because you all look the part, you all have your own little characters and the costumes, like wow. For me, I for one, a little bit more conservative, but I am seriously digging how you guys really bring it, and especially. And I was thinking, gosh, they're doing that in Dubai. They're doing that in the Middle East. But you certainly are really turning a lot of heads. And you did the recent gig at the Formula One.
Yes.
I watched that. Then you obviously flew to Manchester to catch up with the vibe over there. But one of the things that I really wanted to kind of press into was like over the last 2 decades, we've actually seen a shift. Right, from full bands, playing venues to DJs dominating the clubs and festivals. So as a live performer like yourself, how do you see this impacting the energy and experience of a music event?
Yeah, so I think Emma's been really smart in collaborating us all together. Because I'm a massive fan of, like, I'll happily go out to a nightclub and listen to a DJ, whereas I've got friends that are like, absolutely not doing that. We want to hear a live band, which I'm also all for. I feel like I am split right down the middle, and that's what I want to talk about today. But with Doll's House, I think them bringing, obviously, Emma's mixing live, and then I'm singing live, Kerry's playing live, everything else is live. I feel like it just uplifts the whole experience. And then there's some venues we get to roam around, so we are literally in your face, and like as you mentioned, energy, that's why we get booked. If you want a fun, in your face, energetic band, like that's us. And it is amazing because, like you said, we've got our own personalities that we bring, each one fits in nicely.
And what's great about that, because it's taken live to a whole other level. Yes, you've got the DJ element within it, but what's great about your band is how it's this interaction. You know, there's a conversation going on, even though you're heading the actual, you know, the set. It's like people are really gunning for it. You get them involved, and it's a two-way thing. It's not like, oh, I'll sit on a stool and I will deliver my voice. No, you really get it going. And I wanted to kind of talk about Dubai and its nightlife, and at present, since obviously post-COVID, it seems like DJs are getting booked, and to kind of carve a space or carve a niche now for bands that are feeling a little bit, you know, like they're feeling like they've been thrown under the bus. What do you say about that? How does...
No, I get it. I understand. So 10 years ago, I was in a 4-piece band, and I feel like you would fall into bars and there'd be a 4, 5, 6, 7-piece band. They were everywhere. 10 years ago, and it was great. It really was amazing. And there was no, you know, now there's a lot of post-COVID, like the budget cuts. I think that's the main thing. All right, what can we do that will give a similar vibe, just paying one person as opposed to 7 people? Which is heartbreaking, and we're all like still going through it even 5 years on. It's still a topic of conversation every time we go out with musicians, like, where are the live bands? There's a handful now at the minute, and even then, you know, there used to be a minimum 4, like it's duos, it's trios.
Right.
I was even laughing with my friend last week who is a male acoustic guitarist singer, and he's like, oh, you just fall over them now. They're everywhere, which is obviously great, but it's a kind of a similar thing to the DJ.
Yeah.
We'll hire an acoustic guitarist who does all the looping, which fantastic. It's still not given the same as a 7-piece.
This is it, you know, a 7-piece. I mean, I used to be part of a 10-piece orchestral groove, and we used to, you know, we obviously our live performances was so electric because it was like a folk soul band.
Gosh.
And you know, thinking back in sort of like the late 2017 2018, you really felt like you were part of a scene. You kind of, it was so impactful because you had these amazing souls on the stage, and it wasn't just an interaction with you and the audience, it was an interaction, a kind of marriage with you and the musicians, and that I feel is the part that's missing. There's an element of soul that's been sucked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, right?
Yeah, and I think part of that as well, talking to my friends who are DJs, and like even when me and Emma play together, she's like, oh, I love DJing, but it's so nice to be with somebody else on the stage, because that, as fun as it is, gets lonely by yourself. The same with the solo musicians. And even when I sing solo with backing tracks, you're not vibing off anybody.
Well, how do you vibe? Unless you kind of
compared to being in the corner of a random restaurant, just yourself, which, you know, grateful for the work, but compared to having your team with you, your people, your family, I think that's sad. We need to somehow get that back to Dubai.
I know. I think it may happen, but it's again, we're just going through the motions, and something about Dubai that is quite poignant when you live in Dubai, which is obviously something we wanted to talk about as well. There's a cycle of change. It's like the sands, the shifting times of sand kind of happens. So 1 minute this is like at its peak, and then it's taken away literally in a
it's like they have flavour of the month, but they don't even give it a month.
No, and everything just kind of turns around very quickly. And you know, sometimes people want room to grow as musicians. And
of course.
You know, when you've been, you know, kind of offered the opportunity to perform as a full band, you realise that you've got to be thinking ahead, because that's not something that's going to last. Whereas in the UK, it's the actual part of you that grows with the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
If I look at like the past 10 years and, you know, what I was doing then, and like how much I have grown, and all the different opportunities. For example, now, say if it is a budget thing and they just want to hire a duo, for instance, so me and a guitarist. But then the venue used to have a band, so they want the same experience that the band gave, but it's like, we're only 2 people.
Right.
There's vocals and a guitar. Maybe he can loop and do some percussion, but we don't have a drummer, we don't have a bassist, we don't have a sax. And then there's a whole other like, issue of, let's use a backing track, and some people are really against that, which I understand.
I totally agree.
But if there's 2 of us, we're missing
to
other
get
instruments.
to get this kind of same.
The venue want the same vibe, and
I know
it is difficult, and I know a lot of people are going through it and struggling. And because we also need to live, we also need money.
Absolutely, and that's where it comes to the economics. And it's interesting though, because Dubai is a place where everyone is gunning to move to. They're bringing their warts and all, and they feel like people on the other side of the seas see Dubai as a place that's vibrant, that's growing, there's opportunity, and there certainly is. But you cannot, especially as a musician, and if you're thinking of doing it from that point of view, you really have to do your due diligence and realise that it's not a holiday.
Exactly.
Right?
I must get, honestly, at least 5 messages a day from people back in the UK or all around the world.
Yeah.
Hi, Lauren. Looks great over there. How do I do it? And obviously we'll help anybody. But as soon as then I start mentioning even just the cost of being a freelance musician.
Absolutely.
Okay, so up front, you're going to need this much money and this is the rent. And then you need to do this. And then also for the visa, it's like you lose them straight away. It's like, oh, well, we just thought you were just chilling on a beach and singing every other day. And, you know, maybe that's how I've put it on the internet by accident. But there's a lot involved that I think people don't realise. And like hats off to all the entertainers and performers out here.
Absolutely.
Because, well, we're obviously making it look easy when it's not always.
It's not. And I have to stress this, guys, because all that glitters is not necessarily gold, which is, you know, the absolute truth. Being in Dubai is it's amazing. It's a great place to live, and it's important for anyone. And I know you will vouch for me on this. Please do your homework.
Yeah.
And if you're getting advice as well, just remember this. There are additionals that need to come into play before you even get on the plane.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not easy. But I will say that for everywhere in the world right now, we're in challenging times.
I think as well at the minute, especially with the younger people that I get messages from, whether they mean to come across or not, it's like they do have an air of entitlement. Like, okay, so when I come over, will I have 5 gigs a week and blah? And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
You got to get right back at the end of the queue,
there's
darling.
People that have been here years, longer than me, longer than like a lot of people, and they're still grafting.
Yes.
Trying to get the gigs.
And the talent that's coming through, you know, people need to also understand, for those of us who've been here a while, and for, you know, the veterans who have been here 10 years plus, who have known and understood the scene prior to when COVID hit, you know, they were getting gigs, literally, you know, they were getting residencies upon residencies. And now what seems to be happening is that a lot of talent's coming in and undercutting what the musicians were getting prior to
we were discussing this with some veterans last week, and they were saying it's bizarre how much Dubai's grown, and obviously there's been an increase. Our rent's gone up, and car insurance has gone up, and everything else, cost of living has gone up, but we're on the same, if not less.
That's correct.
As our fee than we were 10 years ago. It is bizarre when you put it like that. It is a bit crazy. And people are still asking for cuts and less. And it's difficult to find the line of, I need to live, I need an income, but knowing worth. And I really just hope people do push for the worth.
I will absolutely second on that, guys. When you do go out there and if you are looking and seeking work, you must make sure that you stick to your goal of, this is what I'm worth, this is what you're getting from me. And from an economical point of view, we actually know that inflation is on the high. So it has to, whoever you're working for or whoever decides to book you, you need to make sure that they are aware, that you are aware that everything that you're doing and giving is in line with inflation. So if they are offering you a gig for 2,000 dirham for 3 sets of 45, you need to be firm and let them understand it's not going to happen. But I'm not saying that to kind of ruffle any feathers. I'm just being real. Okay, do the math, because the maths for musicians ain't mathing. All right, let's... Sorry, I just needed to go in. This is Unfiltered, isn't it?
Unfiltered.
Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer. You're messing with the wrong ones. So, you're a millennial.
I am.
I know. And I just thought, oh, wow. Okay, so let's look at... from a millennial's point of view, because I keep saying it in my in my videos that Gen Xers, we're all about vinyl, we're all about mixtapes,
Yeah.
we're all, we kind of entered the world of CDs. So that was kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
But for you, growing up,
Yeah.
Lauren, what was your musical experience? How
Wow.
did
Yeah.
you kind of get into music? and
Okay, I
why?
feel as though it's been in me since I was in my mum's womb, because my mum and dad aren't musicians, but they are a big fan of music. So we grew up in the house listening. From one day would be Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, who I'm obsessed with, but then the next hour would be Tamla Motown, obsessed. Yeah, so it was very eclectic. And then I grew up as a dancer. So then I'd have, classical ballet and jazz music that I was dancing to.
Amazing.
And I'd like my R&B. And then obviously growing up in the 90s, I remember having, and in Manchester, the Oasis 96 cassette tape. I remember having that, and I used to just like guard that with my life. Yeah, that was my little whoop into my little thing. Love it.
The sacred tape.
I know. And then on the flip side, I think 97, then I got my Britney Spears Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Now
We're going,
we're
all over the place.
This is
Still
almost
all
like
over the place.
bipolar kind of.
Yeah. My name's Lauren. This is it.
Listen, disclaimer, I'm not saying that is the case for
Honestly.
all.
And then, I was straight into the girl bands, the Spice Girls, obsessed.
Yes.
My dad made me a Union Jack dress, and we
Right.
went to the Manchester Evening News Arena and watched the Spice Girls, and that is still up there with one of my favourite days
Wow.
in my life. And I remember there was someone called Lolly was the support act, and she was singing Rockin' Robin, and I was like bewildered as to why my dad knew all the words to Rockin' Robin. I'm like, how do you know a Lolly song? And he's like, honey, you don't know.
Come on. I'm a
You
Gen
don't
Xer.
know.
That's what he.
Honestly. So and then I had a massive pop upbringing, and I
Right.
just always was just a typical in my room, choreographing, singing, all of that. And then I think as I got older into high school, then there was very much the indie, Arctic Monkeys, The Killers, that whole scene happened, and I loved all of that. Kings of Leon, and I always then at the back of somewhere had this country thing.
And that's what I wanted to lead into, because you vibrantly share your musical repertoire, meaning, extending from Bob Dylan. I don't know. I mean, you're going into the country now, because I actually remember as a kid, we grew up on Jim Reeves.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get any more country than that. But it was obviously Jim Reeves as a country singer, but he used to sing gospel. It was like very much faith-driven songs, and we grew up on that.
Wow.
So let's dig a little deeper, right? So now that you've got this eclectic tapestry of music in your head, quite literally you've lived it, what about you musically in terms of original styles? Because this particular show does really emphasize, do you write original music?
I do.
Yay!
Write original music.
Come on.
Yes, and that is
Let's talk.
very much more country, folk, rock. I feel as though when I write, I do have the pop formula.
Right, yes.
So it's really cool. I did my first ever only originals set in November. I know, I was like, oh,
good on you.
So by myself, my guitarist recorded the backing tracks for me, and that was a moment. I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening. And then I didn't even just stand up and like, this is an original song. I just kind of sang them
just to see the response.
And bear in mind, I was in the desert with a random bunch of people that I didn't know. None of my friends or family were there. There was no biased opinions.
Amazing.
And people had their phones out. That was a real moment. Yeah. So more of that to come. But it's really a mixture, country, folk. I think that is where, so when over the years when I've been doing these cover bands,
right,
there's been a consistent feedback of, oh wow, like your voice really suits this country,
Yes.
funky. Even when I'm singing, like, I don't know,
Because you've got this
whoever-
kind of rasp in your vocal.
yeah. A lot of people
stuff.
used to say Stevie Nicks, and I was like, oh, I will take that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. So then when I started listening to people's opinions, I was like, maybe they were right. Maybe they were onto something. When I was going from country to country, and people were like,
Wow.
"Can you sing Jolene? Can you sing?" Like even when Miley Cyrus
Dolly-
brought out "Nothing Breaks Like a Heart," because she's got the obviously
Yeah, she has
it's from
got
her
the-
dad. Taylor Swift, and then I love Johnny Cash and June Carter.
Well, you know, only watching the Johnny Cash, the movie. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Walk the
recall.
Line, fantastic. And just her personality as well, because that's another thing, like you said, another consistent feedback that I've got is, you know, Lauren, your personality, your energy.
Yeah.
And then I think that all just only in the like recent past year or so
Okay.
is like, okay, this is who I am, and this is now
Okay.
what's happening, and this
I'm
is
looking.
my original
watching.
artist. This
Yes.
is let's just follow this direction, and I am actually going to Nashville in July.
Wow.
I know.
Talk to us about that. So what is
It's
behind?
something that I've obviously wanted to do
Right.
for years.
Okay.
And then, you know, little things like COVID and whatever else
Yeah.
and get in the way. But it's okay. We're past it now. And then this year, my friend is getting married back in Manchester. And I was like, well, I've flown halfway. I might as well just carry on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to go there only for 10 days, but then with the desire to then go for the whole summer next year.
Right.
And I've already been in contact with some recording studios to finally get all my stuff recorded, because this, again, I don't know if this is because I'm a millennial, I don't know. I'm not great with all the tech stuff. I need help with how do I put
Right.
this on Spotify? How do I put this on iTunes? Like,
That is so interesting
Yeah.
because
help me.
I have been speaking to a couple of millennials, and it's, you know, it's that transition from, you know, the kind of, you probably have a Gen X soul. Well, you probably have a boomer soul.
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
And that's so refreshing because
Yeah.
many Gen Zers right now are tapping back into that particular era.
Yeah.
Because they feel as though something's missing. There's this kind of repetition of the same
Yeah.
thing, drill music and anything that's kind of not made with your hands or your voice,
Yeah.
you know, playing an instrument, you know, just
Yeah.
even picking up a ukulele or
Yeah.
even, you know, trying to learn how to play guitar are things that a lot of Gen Zers are now starting to
Yeah,
really
love.
understand
Yeah.
and, you know, finding their soul,
Yeah.
because but this is amazing news, and I'm absolutely going to be gunning for you. I'll be looking out for you with your whole
My hat and boots.
cowboy hat and boots, and it's so exciting. That's such
Yeah.
exciting news.
I know. I've got on Saturday the 19th of April, there's a festival coming over from the UK actually called Summer in Nashville, which again I was like, well, that's fate because that's where I'm going to be for summer. The universe is sorting everything out, and yeah, I'm going to do another mix of covers and original set.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, good luck with that because you
Thank
definitely
you
deserve
so
it.
much.
Right. Well, we're kind of coming towards the end of the show, but before we do, I'm going to come up with this last question.
Okay.
It's, do you think we're going to see a resurgence of live bands, or is the future of performance moving towards hybrid shows, mixing live musicians with electronic elements?
Okay, I hope that we see, especially here in Dubai, we do need more live bands,
Yeah.
live, raw, authentic instruments, music. I think I can speak on behalf of 99.9% of Dubai.
Yeah.
When I say that, because honestly, you can't go out without striking up the conversation of where's the
course.
band, where's this, and where's
Yeah.
that. So yes, all of that. But at the same time, I do think, and being a slight technophobe, I think we do need to dive into all of this AI, and because it's not going anywhere, is it? It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially here.
Exactly.
And
they're really pushing it here.
They push. Yeah, more and more so. But I say that more in terms of maybe the recording elements rather than the live show experience, or maybe like that side of things could be like Coldplay. They make it like all the lights and everything.
Absolutely. So more interactive.
That side of things.
Yeah.
But still keeping the core of the raw, authentic music. That's
I know,
what we need.
And it feels to me, it feels like the resurgence is coming, but it's going to come with a lot of pushback because of the fact that we are trying to be a little bit more sustainable. We're trying to shrink everything to fit in a specific narrative. But I really do hold strong, and I constantly pray that, you know, bands would need to continue to bring that art form and never lose it, because, you know, I'm telling you, woohoo, if we're going into, well, no, we are kind of in AI, which kind of then moves into AI will then start to kind of have more of a voice than the actual true voice of the musician.
Yeah, talking again with somebody the other week about the AI thing, somebody compared it to like auto-tune, for example, which has obviously been around for ages. And I get what they're saying, right, okay, so, but that's a recording element, but then they were talking about how now people are singing live and they have this AI.
Auto-tune.
Yeah.
They just sing to auto-tune.
And it's like,
no.
Again, especially from like a country folky.
Absolutely.
We like, even like the amount of times Dylan sings out of tune, and it's like, well, that's just how the song sounds now.
Listen, I am an advocate of raw, unfiltered voices, because there is something within that frequency that's literally God-given. It's pure. And if you're going to start manipulating what the true voice is saying, then who is speaking for us?
We are robots then.
Right. And so we're kind of, I mean, we could go on a deeper topic, but we ain't got time for that today.
Next episode.
Definitely the next episode. But with that said, I want to thank you for coming on this show today. It's been an absolute pleasure seeing you. Finally, right?
Finally, the day has arrived.
Can you believe it? We're in the same city. No one gets to see anyone. So those of you who are thinking, oh yeah, we'll bob over on a plane and we'll decide to, you know, upstick, and you don't actually get to see the people who you think you do can. Probably once a year. Even that, it's very difficult because everyone is really trying their hardest to make something not only for themselves but for the community that they are around, and also to make sure that you live out what you have been gifted with, a voice, and a very, very strong and powerful one at that. Thank you so much, Lauren. Are there any final thoughts? Remember Jerry Springer? Final thoughts. Jerry. Sorry, for those of you who don't understand, it's a whole other topic. It's a Gen X thing.
Google it.
Google it. Yeah.
Just keep singing, pick up an instrument, write some songs without the help of AI and ChatGPT.
Thank you. Thank you.
Be you, be real.
Be real, and never ever be afraid of your voice. Your voice carries such beauty, and it's yours. It's unique. It belongs to you. It cannot be copied. I just wanted to put that one out there because it's real. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Really just stay there while I do this closing statement. I want to give a shout out to PS Studios, who are supporting this program, the vocal podcast, The Gen Shift. They've been amazing. So big shout out to Emmanuel and the team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bless you. And also, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Vocal Pod YouTube page. You can also catch me on TikTok. Oh, should I say that? I do a lot of TikTok lives. So if you're coming on board, come with your talent, show me what you're about, and maybe we could talk music. Make sure that it's original though, because you know what? If you don't bring the original tunes, you're getting blocked. And I don't joke. I'm only joking. Right. And also check me out on Facebook as well as Instagram. And yeah, so I just want to end with this closing statement. So we all know that the live scene is evolving, but one thing for sure, there's nothing like the raw power of a band. All right. And with that, I'm going to go. Take care. Love ya. All right. That's it.
I could talk for hours.
I know.
That was...
House club.